Welcome to the Richard Sherman podcast. If you're new, hit that sub button. We're here to give you great NFL content. Stay tuned.
Speaking of a team that is kind of confusing me at the moment,
Vexing of sorts.
that needs to get a little bit better as well, is this Baltimore Ravens team. Because entering this week, this is a win. They're playing the Cleveland Browns, 1-6. Deshaun Watson's out for the season. They're going against famous Jameis Winston. What is it with Baltimore, Rich? Because this team looks so darn dominant, yet they have 2 losses to the Raiders and now the Browns. I don't know what I'm watching. Did they just not show up? Did they not practice well? Did they not get up for these lousy games? Because you could put them against the Niners. You could put them against the Lions last year. You put them against all these top teams, and they dominate. But when it comes to these lousy teams, they just can't seem to get it done. What's the deal with Baltimore?
I don't know, Mitchell. I don't know. What I do know is that they don't play well always against the AFC. The NFC, for some reason, Lamar Jackson dominates. I think he's only lost twice or something against NFC teams. It's an insane record. But against AFC teams, he's pretty normal. And specifically in his division against the Cleveland Browns, he has a hard time. Regardless of who's at quarterback for the Cleveland Browns, regardless of what they're doing offensively, Lamar Jackson has a much harder time versus them than any other team, just about. I mean, I've just seen him struggle a lot against the Cleveland Browns. And Derrick Henry has been so dominant, but he did not look as dominant as he has. The lanes didn't look as big as they had been. And that's, again, divisional games. When you're in your division, throw the records away. Throw all that away. I don't know why. Maybe it's the familiarity between the players, the schemes, et cetera, but when you're in a divisional game, it's tough. It's going to be a dogfight. Now, Baltimore still had chances to win. Bateman drops a wide open pass, and it appeared he lost the ball in the sun. He's pointing up to the sky late in this game that really could have gave Baltimore a chance to win this game and walk away with a nice win. In a struggling environment. They're in Cleveland, but Lamar Jackson played pretty good. He looked good. He 23 of 38, 289. He ran the ball 8 times. He still had 46 yards. Derrick Henry did what he did. Zay Flowers had 7 catches for 115. Kyle Hamilton had a sack and should have had an interception that probably would have sealed this game for him. He had his hands on it. Jameis threw it right to him. He overthrew his receiver and threw it right to Kyle Hamilton, and he dropped it maybe 2 or 3 times, Mitchell. He caught it, dropped it, caught it, dropped it, caught it, and then finally just dropped it to the ground. That would have changed the game. That would have been the game. Baltimore Ravens win. That's how much of a game of inches this game is. He could have sealed that game right then and there, but he didn't. And sometimes, again, it's your Jay. Jameis Winston had a day, and he was moving the ball, 334 yards, 3 touchdowns. Deshaun Watson hadn't thrown for a 300-yard game. I don't think he threw for a 300-yard game in any of his starts. I know Joe Flacco threw a couple times last year and last season, and this offense looked similar to what it did today when Joe Flacco was at the helm. And this is without Amari Cooper, who they just traded to the Buffalo Bills. The offense looked good. Nick Chubb was back, obviously still getting his legs under him, but that was a big boost. But I'm sure Cedric Tillman, who had 7 catches for 99 yards and 2 touchdowns, felt really good about what Jameis is doing. And sometimes when you're on scout team or you're working with the twos, you work with the 4th and 5th and 6th receivers, Mitchell. You're not always working with the 1, 2, and 3 receivers. So you get a chance like this where you lose Amari Cooper and guys go down with injuries, and you're throwing to the guys that you're used to throwing to. And this is what happened in this game. Jameis was going to the guy he knew, and that was Cedric Tillman. David Njoku had 5 catches for 61 yards, another touchdown. But it was great for Jameis. Great to see him. He's a good human being, a good spirit. And again, we talked about the quality of quarterbacks. Jameis is a starting caliber quarterback in the National Football League. You cannot say there's 20 quarterbacks better than Jameis Winston right now. You can argue there's 10, maybe 12. But like at the end of the day, when he's playing at a high level in a good system that plays to his talents, he can play at a high level. He just beat Lamar Jackson, the reigning MVP, and he played well doing it. Wasn't just like a low scoring game. They scored almost 30 points. And this is without a true number one receiver. No, there's not a receiver on this Cleveland roster that you would say would be a undisputed number one on other 32 teams or other 31 teams. So you have to give them a lot of credit, and you got to give Jameis a lot of credit. And that's why he's our Breitling player in prime time, player of the game this week. Obviously, we heard his speech last week when Deshaun Watson got hurt. You hear about all these quotes and funny videos from Jameis, whether you're not sure if he's serious or not. But one thing he was doing today, he was seriously dishing and pushing the ball down the field when they needed to have it. They had to have a touchdown late in that game. He pushed the ball down the field, threw a dime for the game-sealing touchdown. Give Jameis Winston a round of applause, Mitchell, because he is our Breitling player in primetime, player of the game. It's brought to you by our friends and partners over at Breitling. Got us shining this year. We appreciate you. And I love it. And I love it. You know what else
I love? Well, Richard, I love Jameis Winston. He's probably one of the most unique athletes, I would say, over the last 10 years in terms of, you never know what the guy's saying. You never know if he's being serious. He's over there eating W's. But, I mean, like you said, he's a very capable starter in this league. The only knock on him is he'll just throw the ball into triple coverage randomly. And it's just like, but if he's, frankly, and I hate to see it with Deshaun Watson, but frankly, I think he's an upgrade at quarterback for this Browns team. And we saw it today. But with this Baltimore Ravens team and their 3 losses, they've only given the ball to Derrick Henry 14 times on average. And their 5 wins, they're handing it to him over 20 times a game on average. How he only gets 11 carries today is beyond me in a tight game against Cleveland, but maybe that's why they lost. Richard, let's go to the Bengals. Cincinnati, the Bengals 3-4 entering this week, an opportunity to get back to 500. You have the Eagles coming into town. The Eagles are finally getting healthy. Vegas liked the Bengals in this game. They were favored going in, and early on, it looked like the Bengals had a really good opportunity to win this game, and then the Eagles just take over and never look back. What's the deal with the Cincinnati Bengals? At 3-5, are they done?
I don't know if they're done because they're always in this position, and every time you write them off, they win some games, and they find a way. But they don't look good. They don't look good defensively. Obviously, Jamar Chase and T. Higgins and Joe Burrow are going to look good. They're good players. They're high-level players, but it's just not enough right now. And it's not enough in a really competitive division where the Pittsburgh Steelers right now have only lost 2 games, and they looked really good. They're at the top of the division now, especially with Baltimore losing this week. They're now 5-3. I just don't see a world where they're going to be able to come back. And if the Browns look as good as they did today with Jameis Winston at the helm, they might steal a few wins and give the Cincinnati Bengals a much tougher game later in the season. I don't know. I don't. The Eagles looked good today, but it's such an unpredictable league. I don't count the Bengals out just because of their history and what they've been able to do down the stretch, but it's not looking great for them. The Eagles look pretty good. Saquon has been a godsend for this organization and really steadied the ship a lot of these games. I think he's going to, make an all-pro team this year, Pro Bowl team, especially with Christian McCaffrey down and him shining the way he has for the Eagles. But I don't know. I don't know if I have the Eagles beating the Commanders in this division quite yet. I need more consistency from them. But like you said, they're getting healthier, and that's good for them.
I'm with you as well. I like the Commanders in this division, but the Eagles, with only 2 losses on the season and getting healthy right now, anything could happen.